There is a particular kind of diner that has been in the same location for so long that it has become part of the landscape the way a tree becomes part of a landscape, not because it was always there, but because it has been there long enough that imagining the corner without it requires genuine effort. Polly's Diner on Route 9 in Harwich had been operating since 1971, which meant that 3 generations of the same families had sat in its red vinyl booths and eaten eggs and drunk coffee and had conversations that ranged from the entirely forgettable to the kind that a person carries for the rest of their life. The booths had been reupholstered twice. The counter stools were original. The checkered floor was the same floor, cleaned every night, worn smooth in the high-traffic areas in the way that floors get when enough years and enough feet have passed over them. It was a Tuesday morning in September, the kind of morning where the sun came in low through the windows and caught the dust motes and the steam from the coffee pot and made everything look slightly more golden than it actually was, when the bell above the door chimed and the man on crutches came in with the German Shepherd. His name was Nathan Avery. He was 38 years old. He was in uniform, military camouflage, the American flag patch on his right shoulder, the Navy SEAL insignia visible, and he was moving with the careful, practiced economy of someone who had been on crutches long enough to know exactly how much energy each movement required and who was spending it accordingly. His left leg was in a brace from mid-thigh to ankle. Beside him, the German Shepherd walked in the precise, attentive way of a working dog, not the loose, curious movement of a pet, but the focused, purposeful movement of an animal on duty, wearing a K9 service dog vest and watching everything in the room the way Nathan himself watched everything in a room, which was to say, thoroughly and without appearing to. The dog's name was Rex. Nathan paused just inside the door, oriented himself, and looked toward the nearest available booth. Most of the tables were occupied, a couple near the window, a group of older regulars at the back who had been coming in every Tuesday morning for years, a few individual customers scattered at the counter and the smaller tables. The nearest empty booth had a woman sitting in it. Not a woman, a waitress, on what was evidently a break, sitting with a cup of coffee and half a piece of toast and the posture of someone who has been on their feet since 6 in the morning and has been given 12 minutes to be off them. Her name tag said Olivia. Nathan stopped at the edge of the booth. "Excuse me," he said. "Is this taken? I don't need much room. I just need somewhere to park my leg." Olivia looked up. She took in the crutches, the leg brace, the uniform, the dog, in that order, the way eyes move through information, and the expression that crossed her face in the 3 seconds that followed was not one expression but several, happening in quick succession: surprise, recognition of the situation, assessment, and then something that resolved itself as a warmth so immediate it was almost startling. "Please," she said, already moving to the other side of the booth, sliding her coffee cup across the table. "Sit wherever's easiest. I've got 4 more minutes on my break and then you'll have the whole booth." Nathan managed the crutches and the slide into the booth with the practiced efficiency of someone who had been solving this particular spatial problem daily for several months, and Rex settled under the table with the fluid, boneless ease of a large dog that had done this many times in many places and had developed complete confidence in its own ability to fit. "I appreciate it," Nathan said. "Coffee?" Olivia said. "Please," he said. She was up and back in 45 seconds, which was the benefit of being a waitress already holding a coffee cup. She simply refilled it and brought a second one. They sat for a moment in the easy quiet of 2 people sharing a table who have both decided that silence is acceptable. The diner moved around them, the clatter of plates from the kitchen, the low murmur of the older regulars in the back, the door bell chiming once as someone left. Rex, under the table, was still. Not the stillness of a resting dog, but the particular alert stillness of a working dog in a new environment, ears moving independently, processing the room. "What's his name?" Olivia said, glancing under the table. "Rex," Nathan said. "Is he a PTSD service dog, or both?" Nathan said. "Medical alert and PTSD support. He does a few things." "He's beautiful," she said. "He knows it," Nathan said. There was a dryness to it that suggested this was a long-standing position in an ongoing relationship. Olivia smiled. She looked at the crutches leaned against the booth's end, and then at Nathan, with the particular look of someone deciding whether to ask something or not. Training accident, Nathan said, which was not entirely the full story but was the shortest version of it and the one he had found produced the least complicated follow-up, most of the time. "I'm sorry," she said. "How long?" 6 months on the crutches. Another 4 or 5 to go. That's a long time. Longer from the inside, he said. She nodded, and did not try to fix it or minimize it, which Nathan noted, because most people tried to fix it or minimize it, and the ones who didn't had usually either experienced something similar or had spent enough time around people who had to understand that fixing and minimizing were not, actually, what was needed. It was at this point, with the diner moving in its ordinary Tuesday morning rhythm, with Nathan's coffee in front of him and Rex settled under the table and Olivia 2 minutes from the end of her break, that Rex moved. Not dramatically. Not with any alarm or urgency. He simply rose, smoothly and without apparent cause, from his position under the table and placed his head on the edge of the booth beside Olivia, looking at her with the full, focused attention of an animal that has identified something and is addressing it directly. Olivia looked at the dog. The dog looked at Olivia. The diner, for a moment, went quiet in the particular way of a space where something unexpected has happened and the people in it are processing it without yet knowing what to make of it. He doesn't usually do that, Nathan said, watching Rex with the careful attention of a handler who takes his dog's signals seriously. Is something wrong? Olivia said. Not wrong, exactly, Nathan said. He sometimes does this with people. I think it's a recognition thing. He picks up on, I don't know exactly what he picks up on. The people I've seen him do it to have usually had something in common. What kind of something? Nathan looked at her steadily. The kind that doesn't always show. Olivia was 29 years old. She had been working at Polly's diner for 3 years, which was not the job she had expected to have at 29 but which had become, in the way of things that are not what you expected but turn out to fit you better than the expected thing would have, the right job for this particular stretch of her life. She had served 2 years in the army, separated honorably, and had come home carrying what she had come home carrying, which she managed with the particular competent daily effort of someone who has built good systems and knows what the bad days look like and has a plan for them. Most people who knew her did not know any of this. The diner knew she was a veteran because she had mentioned it once, and her regulars knew because they had been coming in long enough to know most things about the people who served them. Rex's head on the booth beside her, his amber eyes looking at her directly, was the most immediate and unceremonious recognition she had received in 3 years. She put her hand on his head. Rex leaned slightly into the touch. He's been deployed, Nathan said quietly. He knows something about coming back. I think he recognizes it in people. Olivia looked at the dog for a moment. How does he know? She said. Not what he knows, or what she's carrying. Just how. I've asked that question a lot, Nathan said. I don't have a satisfying answer. He just does. She had 3 more orders to take and a table to clear before her break was officially over, and she went and took them and cleared the table and came back and sat back down in the booth across from Nathan, because the morning had taken a turn that she found she was not ready to walk away from. Army? Nathan said. 2 years, she said. MP. I've been out 3 years. How's the coming back going? She looked at her coffee. Most days fine, she said. Some days less fine. I've got a therapist I see twice a month and I don't drink anymore, which helped a lot, and I run in the mornings, which helps even more. So. That's a good system, he said. It was not hollow. It was the assessment of someone who had built and continues to build their own system, and who recognized the work involved in another person's. Do you have support? She said. Rex, he said. Therapist. My sister brings meals twice a week, which I pretend to find annoying and she pretends to believe I find annoying. He paused. It's good to have people who bring meals. It really is, she said. The older regulars in the back, who had been watching the dog and the veteran and the waitress with the particular alert interest of people who have been coming to the same diner for long enough to feel genuine investment in what happens there, had gone back to their conversation, though it had shifted, subtly, from its earlier topic. A woman named Frances, who was 73 and had been coming to Polly's every Tuesday for 21 years, looked at the booth from across the diner with the particular expression she reserved for things she considered important. That dog knew something, she said to the man beside her, who was her husband Gerald, and who had been coming to Polly's with her for 21 years. Dogs generally do, Gerald said. Not like that, Frances said. Gerald looked at the booth across the diner, the man on crutches in uniform, the waitress in blue, the German shepherd whose head had gone back under the table now but whose presence in the room was still somehow very present. No, he said. Not usually like that. Nathan stayed for 2 cups of coffee and a plate of eggs, which Olivia put in the order for without asking because it had seemed obvious. He tipped in the particular way of someone who understands what tipping actually represents rather than treating it as an arithmetic formality. Rex accepted a piece of bacon that Polly himself, who had come out of the kitchen specifically because the cook had told him there was a service dog in the dining room and Polly had a rule about service dogs that involved bacon, brought out on a small plate. On the house, Polly said. For both of you. You don't have to, Nathan started. I know I don't have to, Polly said. He had been running this diner since 1994 and had strong feelings about certain things, and this was one of them. Nathan thanked him. Rex accepted the bacon with the dignity of an animal that finds this outcome entirely appropriate. At the door, crutches in hand, Rex back in his careful working dog posture beside him, Nathan paused and looked back at Olivia, who was at the counter with a coffee pot. Tuesday mornings, she said. Usually here until noon. Good to know, he said. He left. The bell chimed. The door closed. The diner went back to being exactly what it always was, the same red vinyl booths, the same checkered floor, the same golden morning light coming through the windows and catching the steam from the coffee pot. Frances looked at her coffee. That was something, she said. It was, Gerald agreed. Neither of them said what it was, exactly. They didn't need to. They had been coming to this diner long enough to recognize the kind of morning that would still be in the room the following Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that, the way certain things stay in a place they happened in, the way certain things, once they've occurred, don't entirely leave. He came back the following Tuesday. Rex settled under the table with the ease of a dog in a familiar place. Olivia brought 2 coffees without being asked. The older regulars in the back said good morning. Polly sent out bacon on a small plate. The diner moved around them in its ordinary way, as it had for 53 years, as it would continue to do after both of them were gone, the same morning light, the same booths, the same floor, always someone needing a place to sit, and someone willing to make room. And perhaps that is the quiet truth tucked inside a Tuesday morning like this one, that recognition sometimes arrives from the most unexpected direction. A dog who knows something about coming home, because he has come home himself, and who sees in a stranger's face something he has learned to find. A booth shared between 2 people whose systems for managing hard things turned out, over several Tuesdays, to be more compatible than either of them had predicted. **** The diner does not ask what you carry when you come through the door. It simply makes room. That is what diners are for. That is, in the end, what most of us are for. ***, sometimes the simplest act of hospitality, a shared booth, a second cup of coffee, a small plate of bacon on the house, is exactly what the morning needed to become something worth carrying forward. /br/br